today and have had a great week. For those of you that are participating in the Transformation Challenge, hopefully the acts of kindness went well for you and you got some reward out of that. I know it's something that I really enjoy doing and obviously makes you feel good, makes other people feel good, and spreads a lot of positive out into the world. So hopefully you got a lot out of that. Coming up next week, the challenge is to try a new recipe. So obviously not something unhealthy, but a different recipe, maybe a different way to cook, something that you normally eat. It's something I've been actually experimenting with a little bit with my diet. Mainly for me, it's been potatoes, to be fair, just different ways to cook potatoes and that type of thing. But I've been enjoying that. So hopefully you can have some fun with that. And yeah, we can get some interesting, interesting recipes that all of you are trying. A lot going on. I feel like this week, they confirmed, I think almost all of the athletes or the roster for World's Strongest Man. I know they sent that out, so I don't know if everybody is confirmed at this point or not, or if they have officially announced the lineup. But a lot of interesting faces there. I think a lot of people, there's not a lot of surprises, at least from what I've seen this far, but I haven't studied it super close as far as who all the athletes are and that type of thing. So I have had a good week. This week has been great. It's kind of going through the gears, and now we're I guess at this point we're officially under 10 weeks to go to World's Strongest Man. So now is really where we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of my training, and I really start to build up to it, emphasize the events, that type of thing. So we're getting into it, and I'm looking forward to that as well. I'm gonna try to enjoy every training session leading up and make the best of it as I'm going in. So yeah, hopefully, like I said, hopefully you guys have had a great week and are in a good mindset, going forward here, and things are going well. So let's jump into let's jump into some questions here. Hello, finally get to be free for it. That's great. I'm glad you were able to join. Good morning, Mr. Shaw. So this week when I was window shopping at Shaw Strength, I noticed the background of the American Bread shirt black. There was a Batman circus dumbbell. What's the story on it? So let me think on that. Batman circus dumbbell. Trying to think. The only thing I can think is that maybe one of the guys that was coming to train with me had brought that down. That's what's popping into my head right now. But I don't have one. I know that at certain points, like I said, different training partners brought in different circus dumbbells, especially. I think if that's the one I'm thinking of, it was plate loaded and a little bit lighter, because a lot of the ones that all of the ones that I have are you load them with sand or shot, that type of thing. So, a lot of times they're heavier for my training, and with some of the guys coming in, they can't necessarily lift that same weight. So that might be the answer to that. I'm enjoying the challenge. Each week is a mixture of dread and excitement, but a great sense of accomplishment in the end. Thanks for all you do to make it possible. That's awesome. That's honestly, that's what it's all about. And that's great to hear. Really good to hear. Signed up for my first comp as a novice heavyweight in 5 weeks. How can I best incorporate the 5 events into the normal blocks from Shaw programming? So what I would say with that is, with those events, I'm guessing you probably have some variation of a deadlift, and then you probably have some variation of a overhead press type of event, axle log, dumbbell, something like that. So what I would say is you could plug that in to, for example, if on the day 4 there's a axle, program to get more work in. If you have a log, then maybe sub out the axle and do a log instead. Or with a deadlifting, as we kind of rotate through different heights, if you're 5 weeks out and you're pulling from a certain height, you can kind of lock in on that and pull from that height. And so you're doing more of your effort deadlifting from that height to get a little bit better carryover. So that would be what I would say is, if you can work on the deadlift variation, the press variation, and then whatever events are there, plug those also into day number 4. So sub out, for example, if there was a tire flip programmed and you have a sandbag load over the bar, then you could sub that out and put that in. When is Mrs. Shaw coming out with a cookbook? That's a good question. That's a good question. She definitely does a good job with her, cooking. She would say that it's not anything, crazy. But she definitely, her meals are always a lot of variety. Watching her eat is interesting for me because she always comes to the table and has all this stuff where I'm very, very basic with my stuff, kind of meat, potatoes, rice, that type of thing, and throw in a few vegetables and some fruit and protein, so I don't know if she'd be interested in that or not. When you do Conan's Wheel, do you go to failure as you will in World's Strongest Man, or do you still do sets with predetermined distance and time? So with training for something like a Conan's Wheel, especially if you have an implement where you can load it like I do, so you could load it with plate weight and make it progressively heavier, I will obviously do some warm-up sets to get moving and feel it out. And then it's really determined by the day. So I might do a progressive load going up as I'm getting a feel of it. So maybe it's one full revolution and then add weight, one full revolution and add weight, or work up to where I'm doing more like 2 revolutions with it as well, and then potentially working up to a top set. You can throw in drop sets with that as well. So I'm kind of going to use a combination of all of those different things as I'm getting ready, but not necessarily going to failure all of the time, right? So I'm not going to go in and every single time I train it, go up to a top weight and go until I literally have to drop it. So I'm going to push that boundary a little bit, because obviously that's what you kind of have to do. You have to get uncomfortable with it a little bit. You can't always stay comfortable with your training for something like that. And the nature of Conan's Wheel, especially for a max distance, is you're going to get uncomfortable, and it's just, can you stay uncomfortable and keep moving to where you need to go? And hopefully with that being a qualifier event, my goal is the event before it to do well in that, so that I know a good distance and how far I need to go in my group. It's always a disadvantage to go out and go first, especially if you're needing to gain points on something like that, because then you absolutely have to go as far as you possibly can. So, strategy wise, because like I said, because it's in the qualifiers, that's, in my head, what I would like to do is be in a position where I can know how far I need to go, and hopefully I can go that far and not have to empty my full tank on that event. Good morning. I hope the Shaw family and team are doing well. Can you tell us how your training prep is going and how it is different from recent years? Have you set up your Fingal Finger? So my training is it's going well. It's going well. I have set up the Fingal Finger. I've actually got some pipes to add weight to it as well, which is something I have not done in the past. So that's one thing that's different. But also, we haven't had Fingal Finger in the finals since 2009. So it's been a long time since we've had that event. And in the past, when I have had it in my group, most recently in 2021, I just trained with my finger empty and didn't really worry too much. I think I was trying to maybe put a bag in the end of it to make it a little bit heavier. That didn't work out very well. So I needed to figure out how to make it a little bit heavier, just so I emphasize that event a little bit more, because it is a final event, and get good with the heavier the heavier weights with that event is something I'm going to try to focus on. But as far as my training and prep, being different maybe from last year, I'm still working with Joe Ken on my training, but when it comes to the actual training, I'm able to this year. We have much more of a relationship where I'm able to call an audible, so to speak, and based on how the training day is going, push a little bit, pull back a little bit, add in something different if I want to, that type of thing. So the general outline, he's definitely helping me with, but I'm more of, let's call it the head coach, right? So I'm the head coach, he's the strength coach, and when it comes to the game, which is the events and that type of thing, I'm able to plug in a little bit more. So I feel like that is working really well thus far leading in. So we'll stay in contact obviously, and keep working on that. But uh, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I mean, it's all build up, right? So it's just trying to stay positive and build up and gain confidence, day by day and week by week, and that's really the name of the game going into Worlds now with 10 weeks to go. Hey Brian, how did you get your pressing strength? I have troubles with locking out my pressing. I don't know if it's because I have really long arms or not, but it's a main weakness for me. So pressing wise, pressing is not something that came supernatural to me, I guess. It's something that I had to work very hard on, right? So, bench press, a lot of people kind of said to me, well, you're really tall, you have long arms, bench press is never going to be a good thing for you. But I really never bought into that. I just thought to myself, all right, well, I have more range of motion for sure, but I also have a bigger structure, so I can put more muscle on and I can get stronger. So it just took longer. It just took longer to build that base and to build it up. And then, getting into strongman, there's certain things where, like, the log press didn't come, it wasn't a movement that was kind of out of the gate where it was easy for me versus, lifting stones, for example, or flipping tires, doing these type of things were a lot easier for me to adapt to. So I had to just put work into it. And as far as building up the pressing strength, it's a variety of different things. So you want to use obviously more of a strict press and build that up. So you want to have a good strict press, but when it comes to strongman, you also want to be efficient with the events. So it's kind of using a combination of building up kind of what I would call more gym pressing strength, where you're not necessarily using the implements, but it's more of a barbell, dumbbell, that type of thing, where you're building that type of pressing strength, and then also crossing over to the actual events and building up there as well. But it's something that, the longer your arms are, most of the time it's just going to take longer to build up, and it's something that you just have to stay with, and over time will improve. Any advice on overcoming the anxiety, reluctance to start training in a gym? Both new to strength and gym training. So I would say that, with this, that's normal, right? I mean, it's something where, going into a gym, a new environment, there can be some, like you said, reluctance, right? Like you're walking into a new environment and it's uncomfortable. You don't know where necessarily all the equipment is and that type of thing. And so getting your bearings, I guess, about what you're going to do there and that type of thing. If you walk in with a plan, right? So, getting in and, making the workout that you're going to do fairly simple. So you're not necessarily looking for, certain pieces of equipment. But while you're in there, you kind of like check it out, right? So you're checking it out and you're kind of seeing what's in. I know for me, when I go on the road and I walk into a new gym, I almost have to literally like walk around the gym and kind of take a an inventory of what equipment do they have. And for me, it's a lot of times like I want to try if they have some new different type of equipment or piece of equipment, whatever. A lot of times I will want to try that, but I almost have to take an inventory and get in there and then kind of plan out what I'm going to do, based on what I have access to. So, as you get in there, kind of taking that inventory and getting a lay of the land. But the first times that you go in, if you make the workout simple, where you're not having to look very hard for equipment, you're not trying to do anything that's kind of super hard. You're going to get in, you're going to get a good workout done, and then you're going to gain confidence, walking in there as you kind of get the lay of the land, so to speak. And you know you will run into people in a gym, unfortunately, that are not as welcoming. But for the most part, what I have found, even when I was younger, was there always seemed to be people in the gym that were nice and wanted to help and wanted to kind of you know uh, almost lend a helping hand, so to speak. If you need it or that type of thing. And by and large, you will run into that, I feel like, in almost any gym. So the bad apples, or people that aren't welcoming, that's hopefully few and far between. So going in there, taking the first step in is gonna be the hardest part. But hopefully you can gain more confidence. Like I said, do a couple simple workouts. Get in there and as you do that, every time you go, you will get more and more confident and you'll feel better. And then hopefully you'll see people, and run into them and say hi and that type of thing. And hopefully build that confidence, and where you're happy to go there, over time. But getting started is by far the hardest part. Also, you got that fifth title. I appreciate that. That is what we are working for sure. Also, a question about advice for finding a good training partner. So, going in, if you don't know somebody outside of the gym that's going to go with you, going in to the gym and kind of seeing who's there at the time that you're going to be there. And also, if you see anybody else kind of working out by themselves, or that type of thing, just saying hi, right? Like, you just say hi and kind of start talking about it. And it's I know for me, early on, some of the training partners I had just happened to be going in after they got off work or whatever, the same time as me. And it was just kind of like you saw them, and then it's like, hey, you know what? We should meet up and start training together. And then once you do have a good training partner, it's kind of that accountability, right? Like, you may have a bad day or whatever, but then that other person is relying on you to be there, and vice versa. So having a good training partner is a very valuable thing. But if you don't have one, like I said, outside of the gym, that's kind of wanting to go with you, going in at the time of day that you're wanting to go in, a lot of times you'll run into somebody that is there, and you can kind of build that type of relationship from that. How's the prep going for Worlds? We're building up. We're building up. I feel like at this point I've been able to touch pretty much every piece of equipment, or event, I should say, that I'm going to have there. Barring the throw, there's a kettlebell throw in the qualifiers. I haven't really touched that too much, but historically speaking, that's a very good event. And I did get the kettlebells. They were in storage, so I do have those now at the gym. So that's something that will get plugged in as well. So we're not leaving that stone unturned, so to speak. So everything is building up. I've got an incredible amount of work to do in the next 10 weeks, but that's the nature of the beast, right? Like, you gotta build up, and things are gonna have to keep getting harder and harder And I'm going to have to keep working harder and harder, to make winning a reality. In your early comp years, you said that you would train with heavier weights than you would see in a comp. Do you still do this for any event, or do you peak weight specifically for comp? So it depends. This really depends on what the events are. For example, when I was doing like the circus dumbbell at the Arnold, as they were progressing up in weight there, a lot of times I would go up in weight on the circus dumbbell above and much above what we would actually be doing for reps in a comp. And my thought process there was, if I could handle and get used to lifting a much heavier dumbbell and my maximum strength was higher, then when I got to the contest, whatever we were doing for reps would feel very, very easy and very light. So that is something I definitely would do and have still done, depending on the contest and that type of thing. Now, if the event is for max, then there really is no way to train with heavier weights. It's just you're building up to whatever your max is going to be, through training and at the competition. So, it's still something that I would potentially plug in. But again, it depends on the contest and what the events might be. Hey Brian, hope the training is going well. I appreciate that. Could I get a happy belated birthday for my wife, Cynthia? Thanks. Happy birthday, Cynthia. I hope you had a great birthday and have a great upcoming year. Perfect, thank you. So each week's for focus on my events. Yeah, I would say that. So where the event training falls in, you could plug in the events that you have coming up, and that's probably the easiest way to kind of sub in what you have to do for your upcoming contest. To all the men here, don't forget that Valentine's Day is very soon. No, that's a good reminder, honestly. A very good reminder to do at least something to make your wife, girlfriend, etc. feel special. Have you ever had sciatica nerve pain? If so, how did you treat it without going to a doctor? So I've been, knock on wood, I've been pretty lucky to not have that issue. I have known different people that have had it, and it definitely can be a problem for sure. Something to work around. I would say that, if I did have it, I would go to somebody for treatment. That's would be my first route with it. So I don't have any advice on how to treat it because I haven't had to deal with it. Just thinking out loud, would probably do some more lower back, hip, type of stuff is kind of where my head goes. So kind of like maybe a hang upside down. I have posted that before. It's not something that I do all of the time, but you can get a thick band and kind of put it in a power rack and flip upside down, and that can kind of open up that lower back, hip type of area. So something like that. But like I said, I would probably head in for some type of treatment to try to help with it for sure. It says already done. That's great. Ahead of the curve. That's awesome. Now I understand why you feel like you tore both your quads on your first yoke run. I recently went to the training hall and did a 300 kilo yoke my first time doing it raw, and my CNS was strained for the day. Yeah, that could be it can be a big shock to the system. It definitely can. And there's obviously a certain technique that you want to do, not take too big of steps, that type of thing. But now you've already done it. So coming back, you'll know what it feels like, and your body will have to adapt to it and to the carries you're going to do. With things like the shield carry or Conan's wheel, is your failure point cardiovascular endurance, dizziness, or muscle failure. So I would say that ideally you want it to be muscle failure. So, the codons can be, depending on the position of it, it can make it incredibly difficult to breathe. So that can be a big X factor on that one. Making sure that you're positioned, and it's an uncomfortable position no matter what. But where you can actually kind of get small breaths in, to keep going, is very important. So you want it to be where it is muscle failure, and it's not your endurance. But you build that up through training, and the goal, like I said, the goal would be is that the weight's not a problem. It's more just how far can you go, and with things like that, a lot of times, it comes down to glutes, hamstrings, especially with a shield carry, going down the course, right? Like it's how much further can you go, and that's really what it comes down to. Do you think not doing the Arnold is going to give you a benefit over the other? Sorry, lost my spot there. Give you a benefit over the other competitors that are, as you are prepping for World's Strongest Man. This is what I would say is not having a contest. I don't have to deload at all. I don't have to compete other than in training. And then I don't have to have any type of recovery from that, maximal type of exertion. So I would think of it more as a benefit for me. And I don't see why it wouldn't be that, because I don't have to worry about anything. And also, I don't have to train for any other events besides what's going to be at World's Strongest Man. So I'm happy with it. And, it's something where, as I've explained before, as far as, competing there, that's not, for me, with the way everything happened, it's not an option. So, it's something I don't really worry about. And, all of the competitors are free to make their own choice, for sure, about whether they want to compete or not compete. So, if they feel like they can compete, recover, and, be ready for World's Strongest Man, then so be it. After my injury in February, meniscus surgery, and such, after slipping on turf at a local comp with a log press, I just can't seem to get my log press back to being as smooth and heavy as it was. Thoughts? Yeah. So gosh, that's tough. So any type of surgery, it's going to take time. Number one, to come back from that. Number two, to gain confidence after it, and kind of to try to build up to back to where you were, or to exceed that, for sure. And I think that it's just something where it's I don't know. I don't know that I have a great answer for this, other than it's just going to take some time. And don't get frustrated. Try not to get frustrated with it, even though it is hard. It's something where it'll come back, and over time it'll come back, and it'll start to feel more comfortable, I think, as you're moving forward, and but it can be frustrating, and it's just one of those things where, think of it as more as every weight that you've done is a kind of post-surgery PR. Think of it that way. So you're not necessarily comparing yourself to what it was before. Now you've got a new kind of level that you're at, as far as that goes, and hopefully that'll help you mentally to kind of push through it as well. But stay positive with it, and keep pushing yourself, and hopefully it'll be back to normal soon. How long before Worlds do you begin your prep? So I've already started my prep. I'd say the last kind of here, 11, 12, 10 weeks out is really, like I said, where we start to get into the harder training. And then, the hardest training will probably be um, up to about, I'll train really hard up to about 2 weeks out, and then start to kind of progressively back off just a touch with my training, so that I'm still training, but then I'm allowing myself to recover and then be 100% at the contest. So, we've got, right now about 8 weeks of really, really, really hard training to build up. And that's what's going to pay off, come contest time. Let's see. You probably answered this already, but what is the main reason you're giving World's Strongest Man one last shot? You can easily do it for more years, and is still in the hunt, and still be in the hunt to win too. So yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. I mean, I don't think that, I'm at a point where I can't do it, or, it can't be competitive. I think that, looking at a lot of things, and I'll kind of go into this in more depth, but there's other goals and things that I want to try to accomplish and keep moving forward with. As far as my family goes, my boys are getting a little bit older, and I want to be there in the dad role for them as well. And I feel like there's other ways that I can definitely give back and contribute to the sport, rather than just being a competitor. So there's a lot of different reasons for that. And I want to go in, I want to be competitive. You're saying be in the hunt. That's one of the most important things to me. And I think that it's just something that I feel like it's a good time to kind of go in, give it everything on this prep, and then walk away and go in and do those other things that I want to do. Still being a part of the sport, still contributing to the sport, making it grow, and giving back. So, but I'll go into more detail with that. I have a lot of different thoughts there, but those are some of the main reasons for sure. Hey Brian, hope you're doing well. How hard is it to put aside ego and dealing with another trainer? I was offered some advice on my squat from a friend, but struggled because my max squat starts with a 7 and his with a 4. Well, so this is it's a good question. It's actually a very good question, because there you have to, what I would say is, you have to, I mean, you can always listen, right? You can always listen, and then from there use your kind of critical thinking ability, so to speak, to analyze what is being said, where is it coming from, and is it valuable, right? Is it valuable information or not? So, a lot of times advice can be offered from people that just want to say something. But again, like you're saying, if the person giving the advice isn't necessarily in a position to give the advice, like, gosh, I'm hopefully I'm making sense, but it's one of those things where, if he's given advice to you, and the advice is not necessarily beneficial, and the weights that you can lift are substantially more, it may be something that's valuable, and then it may be something to just kind of brush off and say, hey, you know what, I appreciate it, but I know what I'm doing, and I have already kind of gone through that, or I've dealt with that, or whatever. So there's definitely putting your ego aside and trying to learn and trying to improve, but also there's also time kind of under the bar, so to speak, that's been put in, obviously, because of the weights that you're lifting compared to your friends. So I would say that you sometimes maybe take it with a grain of salt, and depending on what the advice is or what's being said, that's then how you react to it. So hopefully you understand what I'm saying. It's like not everybody has to necessarily be the strongest to be able to offer some positive advice. So a lot of times you can get great advice from people, even though maybe they are not the strongest on something. They may understand it well and be able to coach really well also on the other side of the coin. So it doesn't always come down to how strong you are, but like I said, you use your critical thinking ability to kind of decipher, is it positive, is it negative, is it something that can help, benefit, or not. You mentioned while training for the Shaw Classic that your body wasn't responding how you wanted and expected the Hummer Tire deadlift. How else has your body failed despite putting in the work? Yeah, Hummer Tire was weird for me last year with the Shaw Classic. I just, for whatever reason, it just wasn't quite clicking. How I would have loved to have it click, but sometimes those things happen, yeah, I mean, it ended up hurting me in the contest there as well. So I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say there's been a lot of times where my body has necessarily failed, even though I'm working hard. I'm trying to think of anything else really. I mean, there's things where you're going to go through, kind of ups and downs with training, with preparation, where things may feel really good. Sometimes things may not feel very good, and you just have to stick with them, and then they'll hopefully click. Closer to when you actually compete, and sometimes that does happen, and it's part of the journey, right? Like not everything's going to be easy all the time. Not everything's going to click all the time. You're going to have to battle some adversity. You're going to have to overcome, certainly overcome some obstacles when it comes to training and preparation, and that can just be part of it. Do you think the world's qualification and invitation process could be improved? If so, how? I think everything could always be improved. To answer your question, I don't think that it's necessarily perfect because with World's Strongest Man, not every single athlete that gets invited necessarily earns the invitation, but I shouldn't say earned. They don't actually qualify. I think they've earned the invitation through their achievements, through what they've done, that type of thing. And I don't know how to necessarily improve it per se, because if you go and force force the athletes, for example, if you force them to compete in a qualification contest, sometimes that doesn't work out as well. And especially with the sport of strongman, the top guys can only compete so much and so often, right? So that they're going to want to focus on the biggest contests and that type of thing. So you want to have the best athletes there, and I think that's hopefully what they're trying to do. And then there are the qualification spots for people trying to kind of climb the ranks, so to speak, and get noticed, get their foot in the door, that type of thing. So I don't have a lot of I'd have to sit down and probably put a little bit more thought into how could it be improved, and maybe that would be more of a conversation to understand a little bit more on the back end how some of the selections are being made, if they haven't necessarily directly qualified, right? So but I'm assuming they're just looking at accomplishments. They're looking at who it is, who they've competed against, how they've done. So it's all a body of work, I think, to receive the invitation. Morning, Brian. How are you feeling during your prep, and what event are you most excited for? I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I'm sore. that's normal. That's par for the course. But definitely putting the work in, and that's a byproduct of putting the work in is feeling some soreness and a little beat up and that type of thing. And then I would say, as far as the event I'm most excited for, um, I would say Fingal Fingers is exciting because we have not had that since my very first final. So that I would say is something I am excited to see in the final. I think that's a good event. And then I'm actually pretty excited for the max dumbbell as well. That's I've throughout my career I have never done a contest with a max dumbbell. I've done obviously some contests with very heavy dumbbells, but never a max dumbbell where it's a rising, let's roll out more weight, let's do it again type of thing. So I think that one's going to be interesting as well, to see how that plays out. So those two, but all of them. I mean, I really do look. I'm looking forward to trying to look forward to all of them. But if I had to pick a couple, there you go. Those would be the ones. Um, I would pay $100,000 to have a grip challenge between you, Martins, Ode, Haugen, and Mark Fliss. Who do you think will win? I mean, some of that would probably depend on the events. Probably depend on the events that you put out there, to be honest with you, because depending on what it is, um, overall, it's tough to say. It's tough to say, hey, this person, because Felix is obviously incredible. His hands are very, very long. So things like a Rolling Thunder type of handle, he's going to do really, really well with that. Versus, say, more of a like block lift or blob lifting. I'm not sure how exactly that would go. So it's a tough question to answer. Really tough one to answer. I'm really not sure. Support you on the decision not to compete there. I was just wondering if you felt it was going to give you a better edge, not doing back-to-back comps. Sorry for not being clear on my question. No, yeah, 100%, man, 100%. Here's what I'm gonna say is mentally for me, I'm going to take it exactly that way, right? So everything for me is going to be an advantage, in on my side. So yes, 100%. With that being said, in my head, I'm thankful that I'm not competing before Worlds, because I get to focus 100% on Worlds, and I don't have to worry about anything else. I don't have to worry about other events. I don't have to worry about deloading, competing, recovering from competing. So 100%, the way that goes in my head is that is an advantage, and I love having that advantage, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it as an advantage as well. So that's the way that I definitely think about it. Any advice on how to overcome persistent shoulder problem? I've been spending 1 day a week working on mobility, but still have a problem with one shoulder. Shoulders are tough. Shoulders are tough. There is a lot of different stuff going on within the shoulder joint. So it's tough to say what your issue might be, and what might be going on. I would, like as I said, my first thing would be to try to find somebody that is knowledgeable as far as treatment goes with that, that you might be able to go see and kind of get some advice. Obviously working on things like mobility, as long as it's not painful. Those things can certainly pay off, but overall, it's so hard to say. I mean, I don't know what other than going in, because ultimately, if I were to have any type of persistent issue, that is where I would go. I would go try to find somebody that could work on it, could help me out, that type of thing. Especially if I had kind of done everything on my own to try to fix it or help it out, and it wasn't. It was still hanging around. So that's kind of where I would go with it, and I would recommend potentially trying to find somebody to help, because it's so hard to say with the shoulder. It could be something that you're thinking, the pain is here, but it's actually being caused somewhere else, and it's just showing up there. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one with that, but I would say trying to find somebody that could actually help would be great. Hey, Brian, which final event do you think you will train the hardest for, even harder compared to all the other events? I would say that probably, I mean, I'm gonna try to obviously train all of them to be as ready as I possibly can. But if there's one that one that I would say that I would train the hardest for, I'm probably going to put the most work into overall. It's probably going to be the shield carrier, the whatever they're going to call it, like shield stone, Husafel, whatever that might be in the final, because I feel like that's an event that because of my height and size and that type of thing, it should be a very good event for me. But I need to put the work into building up, and historically speaking, it has been a very good event for me. So I know that the base is there. I think that looking at the contest overall, that's one where I feel like I need to excel and do better with that event, and really, kind of try to push on that one, because we could kind of open the door up with an event like that, compared to some of the other ones. So that's probably one that I'm maybe going to focus on a little bit more, just to, and again, it's also because I haven't seen it for a while as well. So I think that having that buildup will be good. Let's see. Do you think it's a bit weird not seeing any yoke or farmer / frame carry at this year's World's Strongest Man? Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised by that. That there's none of that in the contest. Because yeah, you would expect some type of loaded carry, but obviously, like we just talked about, they're plugging in like a Husafel or a stone carrier or whatever that might be, into the contest. So it's rare to see that, but it's also, hey, it's what they threw out. Um, Over under 50% likely you will pursue arm wrestling after Worlds. Um, I will mess around with it for sure. I'll mess around with it for sure. I would love to pull, kind of pull against some of the guys, potentially get them in the gym here, and bring them in and kind of have some fun. And who knows where it will go from there. I feel like I have a lot of learning to do when it comes to arm wrestling, but it could be a fun outlet. I'm not going to lie, for me competitively, as well. So we will see. We'll see where it goes. Do you have your single finger set up in your gym, or is it at the mountain gym? So I did bring it down, and it is set up right now outside of the gym. So we did it outside. Luckily, we had some good weather. So weather dependent, I might have to move it inside. What is your favorite memory from Strongman? Whew. God, I probably got too many over the years. I've got a lot of great memories. It's very, very, very difficult to pick just one, and I know that's kind of an easy way out of that question, but it's obviously the winning moments are great, but kind of some of the stuff behind the scenes with the guys, that type of thing is also, those type of memories are great as well. So a lot of good memories. How much of a threat do you think Matheus Kielowski poses in World's Strongest Man this year? Well, if he's in shape, he poses a threat, without a doubt. I mean, I think that he's a guy that a lot of people may overlook when it comes to the contest, just because he has not been there for a few years now. Basically, I think 2019 was his last one, so he has not been there for a while, with World's Strongest Man. So when you look at the events, though, for him, if he's in shape, it's a very good set of events for him that I think he could do really well with, and I think that if he shows up and he's in shape, I think he's a guy that for sure is a threat without a doubt. Do you have any plans to visit New England this year? As of right now, no. Nothing is kind of scheduled as far as that goes. So never say never, because it could happen, but as of right now, no. Hope they have the logs that fit your hands since they hindered your pressing of the log ladder at World's Strongest Man 2020. Yes, they should. They should have logs that fit me better. They were able to correct that. I feel like after the debacle, whatever you want to call it, in 2020, that was pretty frustrating. But we also did not have a day of testing, familiarization in 2020, or if we would have had that, I would have had a good opportunity to get down and I would have grabbed the log and said, hey, this doesn't work. Can we get this modified a little bit? But the way that the contest shook out, we didn't get that testing, so it ended up not being great. And it's not good when you're grabbing the logs for the first time and haven't touched them, and then that happens. So hopefully I promise you I will be testing them in the yard to make sure that my hands fit all right and all that. Are you preparing more for World's Fastest Man this year? Do you think they will try to get back to what it used to be? Your last video of training was so inspiring. I appreciate that. So I'm trying to be well-rounded. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, if you look at the contest overall, we've got loading. You're going to expect the loading to be fast, right? And I need to be able to move well with something like that. Things like the Conan's wheel, the front carry in the final, those type of things being a little bit leaner, a little bit more athletic, endurance better. Those are going to carry over well for a contest like this. I don't think there's any reason to come in too big for World's Strongest Man. I mean, you got no events where that's going to be a massive advantage to be bigger. More of the events lend themselves to being more athletic. So that's kind of the direction that I'm trying to go, and trying to not walk in at a massive body weight, because I don't think that will help necessarily too much this year. Let's see. Sorry. How much do you know about the weights at World's Strongest Man? Liz and Law said on the channel that the worlds will go back to heavyweights again, and that they don't want to hear it's too light. Well, I don't know. I don't know if the weights have even been decided for anything really. I think a lot of that is done, at World's Strongest Man, and I think if they give us an indication, but it's all relative, right? Like, heavyweights. I mean, how heavy can you go with some of these things? It's not, I mean, the max dumbbell is obviously heavy because it's going to be a max. I think probably the biggest question would be, something like the deadlift. How heavy is that going to be? That type of thing. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what weights they do put out there, and if we get to learn those, before the actual contest starts, or if we just kind of get there and figure it out and see what they got. Are we going to see Tyler again anytime soon? I don't know. I mean, I still talk to Tyler and that type of thing, and would love to see him around more, but he does have a busy life with his family and girls and that type of thing. So I don't know. I wish I could say yes, because it would be fun for sure. Mr. Shaw, thank you for doing these chats with us. Have a great weekend and even better training session. 5 is all yours. I appreciate that. Definitely appreciate that. Once you win World's Strongest Man this year, do you think you might want to try for a record 6 title? No, I think this is it. As far as World's Strongest Man goes, I think it's, I've obviously said that this is my last one, and it's I think going out with that 5, I mean, if you really want to compare, it would be, getting that 5th would be great. And then I would have a tie where Marius has 5, but he does not have a tie. So maybe that could be the tiebreaker, if you will. But no, I don't think that that's. I mean, I guess you never say never, but at the end of the day, I think I want to be happy with what I've done, and I don't think that's not in my mind right now at all. Are you getting Mrs. Shaw any new equipment for her gym for Valentine's Day? As of right now, no. But again, who knows? As I get looking for stuff, maybe she might get surprised with something like that. Wouldn't that be ironic if they go back to extremely heavy weights when you do decide to give it one more time? Yeah. Um, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, you can prepare for everything. I mean, if they want to make it heavier, I'm all for that, and certainly wouldn't complain with the heavier weights. For the max log in my upcoming contest, should I do it today or tomorrow to see where I'm at? How do I build up to setting my 3 weights for the event over the next 5 weeks? Um, so I would say no as far as today or tomorrow. You're 5 weeks out. So what you could do, to just kind of off the top of my head, is you could go, say, maybe um, a triple or something like that. You could do then a double, and then a single, over the next 3 or 4 weeks, and then you'd hit your single 2 weeks out from the contest, and then the last weekend before, you could go something like maybe 60 or 70% of that, just to kind of keep yourself primed and ready to go. But your heaviest training weight, you could go 2 weeks out from your contest, and then that's where you're kind of establishing what you're going to do. And then as far as that goes with the 3 weights, what you would want to open, a lot of times it's nice to just get your first lift out of the way, kind of get your bearings with the contest, wherever you are, that type of thing. So, pick a weight that you could easily hit for a double for your opener. So it's not something that's going to, be a risk at all. And then from there, then based on how that feels, then you would call your next weight. So I don't think that you necessarily have to have all 3 of the weights locked in. I mean, having a little bit of an idea based on where you hit your training max in your training buildup, that's going to give you a general indication. But if you go into the contest, you're using the adrenaline, that type of thing, that last lift, a lot of times you can push a little bit further. You should want to push a little bit further than where you got in training. So, getting that first one on the board, jump to something that's a good weight based on the contest, and where the other competitors are, where you are, how you feel for the second weight. And then the third one is where strategically you push a little bit more. But again, depending on who's in the contest, if you can beat somebody and jump 10 pounds instead of jumping 30 pounds, it's smarter to get that lift and get the points from the contest as well. So, it's being a smart competitor, but hopefully you can get a general base of where you should be over the next 5 weeks. You're truly great in our minds and inspire us to be positive and proud and putting in the work regardless of the goal. We'll always be 110% behind you, B. Thank you so much for all you do. I appreciate that. That means a lot, man. That's awesome. Any plans for trying to set any record lifts in the future? People often ask Zydrunas about what he could have done in log if he focused on records. No, not really. Not really, to be honest with you. I don't really have any plans. I mean, maybe I will at some point, but yeah, as far as those type of lifts, I don't really have any plans. I've said many times that titles mean so much more to me than any record type of lift would. So that's what I've always tried to focus on more in my career, and I've been happy, definitely been happy with that. Cool. Have a great day. All right, guys, we are locked in. I've got a few more things to get to today to keep chipping off and to make today, great. So I'm going to jump off. I'm going to do that. I've got some training to get done this afternoon as well, which will be awesome. Hope you all are doing amazing, and go have a great weekend. Have a great next week, and we'll check you guys then.